So I'm going to do a little back looping just so that we can hear the process of it as an overview. So where we started off with this, let me save, make a new one. We went to general editors, we went to asset editor, nope, not asset editor. Every time I go to the wrong one. Content browser, there it is. We found a character that started off with what we wanted to, so like the male proportions here where the arm is long or lanky or whatever, or something like this one where it's a little bit thicker. It gives us a good base to start off with our character. And remember, this is just a base, that's all we're using it for. Even in that video, he uses a base. He creates a default arm, builds everything off of that. Delete everything we don't need. There we go, good enough. And then I can center pivot it, and then I can move this back to the grid. So I can go to default view, turn my grid on, and snap it to the grid, and then rotate. So you'll find that doing that is going to be a huge help because of just having everything right there is going to make everything a lot easier. Every piece I create is based off of another piece or based off of the default arm. So going through and grabbing, let's say these pieces on the arm here. There we go. I can go to Edit Mesh Duplicate, and then I just switch to Object Mode and grab it. It's hard to see, but there's extra faces inside here. So when I marquee this or click on it, I may grab the one piece, and then if I hold Shift and marquee it again, then I'll grab the other piece. So you'll see me do that a lot where I'm trying to select something. I'm trying to do it kind of a creative way so that I don't have to zoom in and click, click, click 1,000 times. If I marquee both pieces and then just deselect the other one, then that grabs the piece I need. So let's say for this, and this works too for pretty much anything. So if I'm doing a character with clothes, I need a t-shirt, I'll duplicate the character's faces for where the t-shirt is, and then just use it as my base for the t-shirt. So if this was like a gauntlet or something that's going to be on the sleeve, I use it as my starting point, and then let's say extrude it out. And then I can start grabbing some pieces. Let me double click my move tool and reset this. And I can start moving some of these pieces. And this gives you just a good idea of where things are at for this kind of thing. Because this is robotic, this isn't going to bend. So in the video I show making a connector for where the wrist is going to be, where the elbow is going to be, where the shoulder is going to be, so we have starting points where hinges could be. We can do the same thing here, but this again, just another way to kind of attack it. Is just kind of understanding like, okay, the hand is out like this, the elbow is right here, so it's going to bend this way. So I need to create basically an opening so that the arm can do that. So if I just grab these faces here, or points there, come on, and I push them this way, and then maybe I grab these ones, and push those that way, and then I grab these ones, and push that this way. Then as this piece were to start rotating, I would have maybe a little bit more room to move around. This one probably needs to come back some too. There we go. All right, so let's say that piece is the base of my arm. So I'm going to isolate it, and it's something that I'll constantly in and out, isolate things and not isolate things. I'm going to grab the edges here. Maybe I'll bevel this. Maybe I'll bevel this. Oops. That way it's nice and smooth and crisp. That's cool. Let's say that I wanted a couple pieces here. I'm going to do like, I don't know, something there. So I'll duplicate that, grab that piece, extrude it out. Maybe I'll then extrude it and scale it in, extrude it and push it in some. There we go. If I start to see the other arm coming through, maybe I want to just delete those faces on that other arm. So now when these two get smoothed out, it'll look like, you know, kind of like a opening or something. I don't like how that is displaying. The faces from the back side were pushing through. That's why we were seeing that. There we go. All right, now this might look weird like this. That might be the design of yours. That is anything. Don't get hung up on, I'm trying to create this specific piece and then going into there and trying to create it. You definitely want to have those pieces where you do want to, but just kind of see where stuff is missing. Like, do I like that? I actually don't like that. I think it's maybe a bit too soft. So I want to crisp it up. So that's where I'm going to go. And you'll see I literally just grabbed faces and just started extruding stuff just to see what I would get. So I'm going to crisp this up by just going into the edges here. And anywhere that it was hard or soft and rounded, I'm going to grab these and just bevel it. And by beveling it, I should create a nice crisp edge. That should give me a nice amount of detail. Okay, I grabbed all the edges around there. That should be good. Bevel. Hit 3. That should, yeah. Is that good? I'm going to hit 3 on this one and see. All right, there's a little bit poking through here. I'll adjust that. That's no big deal. I think on this one, I maybe want to go to the bevel and maybe put 2 segments. And you'll see how it crisps that out further. Here it was before. There it is now. Okay, and that gives me just a really sharp piece right there. And then when I hit 3 on this one, it's going to lose some of that shape. So I may need to go into my edge loops and maybe drop in an edge loop here and drop in an edge loop there. Now that will open it up so that when I hit 3, now I have some more points that maybe I can just grab this. Nope, I can't grab that too much. There's not a whole lot I can move as far as where that's going to be. Let me unisolate and then re-isolate. And maybe I just want to take this edge here and just extrude it and just push it in. That will give me a little bit harder edge right there, so maybe I'm just kind of covering it up. Oops. And then maybe I'll go here, and I'm just going to bevel these corners. Because all I'm doing is looking at where I want areas to be sharp and where I want areas to be soft. And that's what I'm kind of basing all this off of. There we go. So that's cool. I'm going to take this and maybe push it down some so I don't have that weird gap. So I'll center pivot it, move it down a bit. And this side, maybe I'll take these points that are here and just move those up and over. Oops. And you'll see there's some times where it's just like you're going to go back and forth with this, just trying to get these lined up right. I just have some weird point right there. Where are you at? Right there? Yep, there it is. And the same thing here. This could probably come over a little bit more. This could probably come over a little bit more. There we go. So that's kind of cool. So that's maybe a screen or something like that. Let's go to this side. I'm going to grab these 2 faces. I'm just going to duplicate these off the surface. And then I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to do something kind of similar, but this time I'm going to pull it out. And then extrude it inward a little bit, let's say offset. You'll see me cycle between offsets, between thickness, between moving this, between regular scale. It all depends on what I'm trying to do as to which tool I'm going to use. Also, by keeping these as separate pieces, it just makes your life a lot easier when we get to UVing time because you're just focusing on one piece at a time. It's not all the pieces at the same time. A little beveling. A little bit crisper, so maybe 0.1. And let's go to, something doesn't look right about that piece. Oops. Nope. Let's hit undo. That bevel did not turn out good. Let's see what happened. And this is just random stuff that just happens as you're modeling things. if I hit 3, that's nice and smooth. Oh, I have a back on this. I don't want this back. Okay, so I'm just going to delete these back faces here. Typically, those will just get in the way because as it's trying to smooth out, it's trying to smooth that back face too. There we go. So now I'm going to grab all these edges on the inside here, here, this, that. That's good. Bevel. 2 divisions. That's a cool little piece right there. And you'll see that it should fit pretty close to where that arm already fits. We may need to just push it in some more. And if it doesn't match perfectly, it's not a huge deal. We just need to get it pretty close. There we go. And if it's still an issue, I can just grab this and extrude and then just push it into it. And now no one will know that we did that. There we go. So again, just random pieces. And I'm just looking at this to see what would look good. Anytime I'm modeling this stuff, I go and I turn on my ambient occlusion because I want to see what that looks like, because that will give you the best idea of what the details are. Apart from colors and everything else, adding that ambient occlusion makes everything just really pop. So, oops. Going to the shader, going to ambient occlusion, and we'll put this to 6 divisions. And we don't even need a material for this, or lighting. If we just switch to ambient occlusion, that'll show us exactly what we're seeing. And I could see, okay, this area looks pretty boring, especially if I switch to the other side where I have this one, you know, that looks boring also. So I need to maybe spice those up a little bit. So I'm going to grab a cube. Come on, where are you at? There you are. Are you still rendering? Why are you going so slow? There we go. And I'm going to delete all the faces except for that one. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can just kind of slide this into here, slide this one down here. And I'm just going to tuck it inside and kind of line it up with the direction that I think it should go, like that. I may need, because it's kind of curved, another division. There we go, that's good. And then I'm going to duplicate and scoot this down. Duplicate, scoot that down. Maybe I'll grab the point here and just push this down some more. And then push these in. That's good. Duplicate, scoot it down. Tweak where my points are at. And you'll see how you don't need to be 100% accurate with a lot of the stuff because they're just kind of like module. They just kind of like fit together. As long as they look even, then you should be good. All right. I might have went so far away. There we go. Cool. All right, so then I'm going to take all of these. Now, I can't leave these as planes because that'll look stupid. That one needs to be fixed, but I'll fix that in a bit. So I'm just going to extrude this and push it in. And then they all turn black because they're inside out. So then I will go to Mesh Display, reverse it. I'm also going to go to their faces and delete the top faces and the bottom faces. I don't see those, so there's no point in having them. Whoops. So I'm just control dragging on these, that deselects. And I can delete those faces there. And that way when I hit 3 to smooth it out, you'll see how it smooths out pretty evenly. And then I can adjust. These ones are too far in, no big deal. I just grab those and push it out. This one's too far in also. Push it out. This one's too far in. Push it out. And up. Oops. And this one needs to come down just a hair. Okay, so it's that same process over and over and over again. As you see different areas, you just want to start correcting or filling in those holes of where they're at. Eventually, this is what it's going to look like, so there should be something inside there too. So maybe I want to put a bar in there or something. So I'll model a simple bone, right? So there's a cylinder. I'm going to lower my divisions. Everything should be light, so 6 divisions or 8 divisions. I don't need anything on the caps. I'm going to rotate. And again, think about hard areas and soft areas. And just let the modeling kind of guide you as to where it's going. Don't try to be too rigid with it. So like on this, that's a cool piece, especially if I hit 3, you know, it's going to round it off. But what if I just grabbed everything here and just put a bevel on it? Now when I hit 3, you'll see we get this kind of like star-shaped piece. Now alone that might not look very cool, but what if I just took this then and extruded this in, and extruded that in, and extruded this in, extruded that in. Add a couple bevels. And it really is, it's just kind of like free form. Let's just play around and start extruding stuff and beveling stuff and inserting edge loops, and then see what kind of shapes we can get. Because that looks pretty cool, how round this is, turning into that more star or flattened out shape. Same thing on this side, I could do something very similar, just extruding. And you'll see I scaled that down, I'm extruding again. This one I'm going to push in, I'm extruding again, scaling it down, extruding again. Maybe I'll pull this one out. And maybe I'll do something like that. Oops. And then I'll extrude this just so I have this edge here I can just double click. And then again, anywhere I have that hard edge, I'm just going to add a bevel. And that'll again create just some cool shapes that, you know, will work pretty good. If I needed to create some wires or whatever inside here, coils, I don't know, let's see, where's my torus? There we go. I'll rotate this 90 degrees, scoot it over, scoot it up. Everything, take your divisions down. Like literally, like 8 and 8 is perfect numbers for a lot of things. Because when I hit 3, I still have that same shape. If I go typically lower, like 4 and 4, and I hit 3, it just really loses a lot of the volume. So 8's usually a pretty good number. 0.1. And you want to find lots of little details. That's what's going to make it sell a little bit better than just a lot of big details if you just have a lot of little things happening. So something like this, and then let's say I duplicated it and scooted it over and scaled it up some. And then I hit Shift D. Maybe I need to scale it up a little bit more and scoot it over a little bit more. There we go. And then Shift D again, Shift D again. Might make it all the way through. Yes, it does. Just need to scale that one down. And then maybe I'll put one right here. If you find that you're going to do something 20 times, 30 times, whatever it is, you may want to lay out the UVs. Typically when I model something, I will go through and I'll do something like this. Like, okay, I like the way that looks. Then I'll step back, I'll take the object, lay out the UVs, and then start duplicating it all over again. I'll delete the stuff I have and then redo it. Because you'll find that, number one, it's good practice, but number two, it's just easier that way than trying to lay out the UVs for all of these. Okay, now even though this isn't a coil where it looks like it's wrapped around, it does look like it's wrapped around. It does look like it is some sort of coil, even though it's just a torus. And then again, looking at what this, let's go to a good angle here like this, looking at what that Arnold render is going to look like you can see the detail in there. This might look a little too blocky, so I may need to just scale that up some. Okay, so let me save this one as V2. Yes. And then I'll open up the one that I had. Okay, the process is the same. It's the same exact thing. The guy who had that video from Pluralsight, he does the same thing. He's like, grab these faces, extrude them, and then cut the shape that I want. And that's what he does over and over and over again. So you'll see on here, even these more complicated shapes like this, I took my original arm that I had and duplicated it. There it was. And then I went to smooth. And then I said, cool, that's my base now. And I went and grabbed some faces. Like that. That one looks weird not being there. Maybe these ones I want in here, those ones I do want in here, like that. And then I can just delete everything else. And that, I don't know how you got in there. And then I can just extrude this. And now I've created that shape. And now it's going to match the contours of that. And then I would just add bevels, maybe add something between these. If I wanted to, let's go back. Okay. So I'm going to take this and just bevel, bevel, bevel all over the place. That, yes, okay. So, and I'm going to do it all the way around the outer edge. The very bottom of this I shouldn't need. Come on, don't select that. Oh my god. Somehow I grabbed a face. That's fine, I'll just delete that after. There you go. So I've grabbed all the edges around this. I bevel it. I put this to 2. Gorgeous. And then I'm just going to delete this one, which I don't know how that got selected. And then I'm just going to delete all these faces on the inside. And what that does is when I hit 3 and smooth it out, I don't see that. Okay, so it's no longer there. So if I hit 1 and 3, I don't see that stuff. If it was there, it would wrap around and kind of soften that. This creates a nice hard edge. Now let's say I wanted to create some filler pieces here. I'm going to duplicate it again. I'm just going to scoot it up out of the way, or over this way. I'm going to delete everything except for, let's say, this, 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 and that. There we go. So I have these two. I'm just going to grab these and bridge. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try that again. These two and bridge. All right, that's not going to play nice. So I'll just grab this face and that face and bridge. Wow. I don't know why he's being so stupid. I'll use append. There's always another tool for the job. So we'll use the append to polygon. I'll click this one and click that one. I'm just kidding, exactly. There we go. Just like animation class, sometimes you got to hit the right angle to be able to select stuff. Okay, oops. So now I have this face. That's all I was after. That's all I wanted out of that whole mess. Let me delete these. There we go. And then I can take this and smooth it. That's good. Actually, that's not good. Let me undo that. Let me go to smooth again, or add divisions. That's the one I wanted. There it is. And this allows you to add divisions. It says level 1 minimum length, but you'll see if I click this, I should get some more options inside of here. Nope, I lied again. That is an update that Maya did not include there. Yep, I guess I'm just doing that. That's fine. So I'll do this. Or I know I can do it. There's always something else we can do. Insert edge loops and multiple edge loops. Let's say 6. Click here, click there. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Okay, so now I have the divisions there. So now I can just grab each one of these. And again, it's about finding that workflow that works for you. I don't want that one. It does, yes. I know, it's ridiculous. I need 5 here. There we go. And then I need 6 here. And the reason I need that is because this one here and that one there, those are butted right against the edge of the other piece. So if I had those there, it would look weird to have like an extra extrusion. I need to have an odd amount, oops, so that it lays perfectly like that. Like, that's good. Okay. So now I can take this, I'm going to shift marquee, delete the other ones. I'll extrude, pull it down, there we go. And then I can just reset the Z, and now we have these bars that fit perfectly inside there. And then just like before, I'm going to grab this, shift drag this to grab the faces on the outside, and delete. And then what's neat about deleting the faces on top and bottom is that now I can just go through and bevel the whole thing. I don't even have to select them. I wonder how that would look. Let's see, 0.5. Let's leave that at 0.5. Okay, because this gives us these cool facets, and then we'll bevel that again. And then I'll lower this to 0.1 and say 2. So now we get these basically like faceted bars. I still may need to update where these are just slightly, just like scoot that one in and then scoot this one in like that. There we go. Cool. So there's another piece, you know, instead of this one here, which has all these bars, that's just another way to do it. This is the same thing as that. This is just a cylinder that I just extruded. Just extrude, extrude, extrude until you find something cool. Okay, so, and that's literally everything. If you just add random bits of crappy detail all over the place, you will find your stuff just looks overall a lot cooler than if it did otherwise. So here's a cylinder, so I'm going to grab these pieces here. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to scale it in, extrude, scale it down, extrude. You'll see this is the same thing I did on the one up top. All right, so that's good. I'm going to go to this here. I'm going to go to Insert Edge Loops. Let's put in 6 divisions. Let's reset the tool. Okay, notice how, let me turn my grid off. I picked 6 and I got even numbers here. If one of these ended right on this flat edge, I would undo, pick a different number like 5 or 7, and then I would make sure that I have an even amount. That way it lines up perfectly. Another extrude, push that in. Also, a little bit of variation helps too, just to make things look a little bit more nicer, more nicest. So let's grab some of these. Oops, not that one. That's good. And I'm just going to extrude that to give it a little bit of difference in thickness here, just so that these pieces don't automatically look perfect. Now, going through this and trying to select all those edges is going to be a lot of selecting. So there's a tool that we can use. If I go to my edges and I marquee everything, then go to Select and say Use Constraints, inside of Angle, I can basically specify a range that I want to select. So if we look at where these are at, anywhere it comes up and then goes over, this is pretty much a 90-degree angle, right? So if I figure out this range of where these edges are at, I can basically say select any edges that are at that range. I do have to be careful with these because I might accidentally hit those, but it's no big deal. I can just undo it. So I'm going to say current and next, which means select or constrain current items and the next items. And then I'm going to activate the edge angle. And then you'll see that it automatically selected the correct ones. Okay. Now I just happen to get the right numbers. If this number was up, let's say, to 200, and I marquee this, nope, still good. Let's say this number is down further, and I marquee it. There we go. So now I've accidentally selected these edges, which I don't want. So then I just find the right number. I just keep tweaking it until those ones go away. If it accidentally deselects something I wanted, let's say I go above 90 and it deselects them, I just bring it down to a better range, marquee the whole thing again, and then verify that I have it selected. Yes. Now the most important step, oops, I forgot that one there, so let's find, maybe that one's a little bit lower. Nope, keep going down. There we go. Nope. And some of these you won't be able to do. Like that's not in the cards for this one. So I'll do that one manually. make sure you say close and reset. If you don't reset it, then this will be the setting forever, and I can only select edges that are within this range. There we go. So now I'm going to go to my regular edges and just reselect all of this. And then same thing on the bottom probably. Yes, there we go. And then bevel. That even might be good, just that. Oops, something got selected here. Let's hit undo. Yep, it accidentally selected these. So I'm going to control deselect that. So this is one of those tools that I'm showing you. You may say, nope, that's too complicated. I'm not going to use it. But just give it a try. Even if it's on a more simpler object, you'll find a lot of use for it. Let's try that again. Bevel, good. Hit 3. I'm going to look at, when I look at this thing, I don't zoom in here. That doesn't give me much information. I zoom in here. I want to look at that profile, and I want to see what does it look like if I added 2 divisions. That looks a lot tighter. I like that, so I will use that. Okay. If we're not going to see something, if I'm going to use this and then have another one like that, the insides of these don't really matter too much. So I could actually delete the faces on the inside. So just stuff to keep in mind. If I need another one of these, let me create another cylinder. 8 divisions. If you remember 8 and you just keep using that, everything lines up perfectly. It just magically happens. Let's grab that, make it bigger. I'm going to extrude this in. There we go. Let's extrude that up. And now, something like this is cool because it actually looks like this might fit inside there. Like it might actually like lock in. So that might be something if you were to animate it that you'd want to animate it so that it fits perfectly in there. You could also take, just like we did in the other ones, I could duplicate this. Delete all the stuff here. Let's go to this bevel. There, shift double click that one, delete, and then I'm going to just double click this and delete that. And that deletes everything underneath it. So I just have the top. So now if you look at this, this is basically like the upside down or the inverted version of that. So this actually would fit perfectly on top of that. So then I could extrude this if I'm trying to create something that looks exactly like it. And then maybe flatten that out a bit. And then, yeah, I think that's actually pretty good right there. Right? So that's something, if I'm animating this, that might be a cool way to do it. Yeah, that's neat. All right. Other stuff you may want to create, let's say a piston. So what's our magic number? 8, there we go. I'm going to create a cylinder. Well, look for reference if you're not sure what pistons and all that look like. Pistons, hydraulics. You don't even have to look up robots or mechanical things. Just look up like car parts. When they made Transformers, they had basically a library of car parts that they had. So when they look at Bumblebee, he's what, a Chevy Camaro, right? So they went and they said, like, what's every single part of a Chevy Camaro? And somebody actually modeled every single part of a Chevy Camaro. And then when they modeled it, when they modeled Bumblebee, they would just import all these parts into the pieces and put them together. So something like this. It's basically a cylinder. You may need to cut away if you, like that, there you go. And it's basically a cylinder with this other piece in the center, okay? So if I'm doing this, I'm going to grab this and extrude, scale it in, push it down, there we go. You'll notice how I use my hotkeys a whole lot. Like I haven't gone up here for very many things. Usually when I'm just trying to remember what the specific tool I'm trying to get to. Push this, extrude that. So that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll grab these and just make it a little bit longer. All right, so that's good. Another cylinder. 8 again. And again, if you remember that number, it's just like everything just fits together perfectly. Some pieces may need to be 6 or 12 or whatever, but it just makes your life a lot easier if you start off with something like that. All right. There we go. Maybe like that first, and then, oops, like this, and then like that. Okay, this is like a weird looking one because it's really narrow. But again, having that contrast in there of this big beefy arm with these tiny pieces could look really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. It needs to have some way to attach to the thing. So another cylinder. And you'll see how I'm not set on any of this stuff. I may model this and it may take me, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to model this whole thing as far as this one piece. And I may not end up using it. Your goal is not to think that it has to be absolutely perfect. You may focus on the wrong things. You may focus on, you know, I'm trying to get these divisions to line up perfectly. I'm trying to get these pieces to line up perfectly. Where if you just kind of said, let me see what's going to happen, yes, I do like this, no, I don't, and then go back and try to make it look pretty, you might be at a better state for that. So like that's cool. Like this, right? Because that would be where it would like pivot from if this was like how it would move. Yeah, that's good. Let me add a couple divisions here. I really like in Cinema, it has that thing where it just pops up at the top, so I don't have to go through and type in 0.5. I could just use that. Let me grab these faces here. I'm not beveling anything. That's a horrible thing to do. Don't bevel stuff. I'm going to circularize. Yes, there we go. I'll shrink this down. That's perfect. I will extrude. I will not extrude. I will bridge. Nope, it's not going to let me bridge. Let me select them again. Sometimes it doesn't like it when you first select it. There we go. Now, even if that doesn't look pretty when we hit 3, that's fine. I can play with that. I can tweak it. I can add bevels to it. I can add insert edge loops. Something will make it look prettier. You'll see just even those little things, whoopsie, are going to make a huge difference. Bevel, small bevel. Most of my bevels I do, it's like 0.125, 0.25, maybe 0.0125, depending on how small the item is. Like, that looks pretty decent, right? Compared to what it looked like a second ago, I was like, crap. All right, more bevels here, yes. 0.2. Think of like a sculptor. If you're taking a sculpting class, they're not going to say, you know, push the clay here, push the clay there. It's going to be like, make an arm. Here's how you add detail. Same thing here. We're just adding details to things. That should be bigger. Maybe this, that. There we go. And you'll find your own way in how you model stuff. It's just a matter of getting in there and getting your hands a lot dirty. There we go. More bevels, more bevels. Whoops. And I will even find, even that video we watched of that guy, he has a couple things he does in Maya. And I'm like, why is he doing it that way? Just, that's his way of doing it. It works for him, so whatever. Cool, that's awesome. This looks kind of flat. I mean, it's supposed to be flat, but I think I want to add just an edge loop here and there. And then just extrude that out. There we go. And then if I hit 3, it's going to look stupid, right? So more bevels. 0.2 and 2. There you go. That looks much better. Much more interesting of a piece. Awesome. And then this has to mount to something, right? So there's a hinge here. So that has to connect to something. Scale this in a little bit. Or out. Yeah, out. There you go. Try to create the simplest piece. Here's a plane. Notice too that I've created everything right at the origin. So some pieces I'm making right on the arm itself. A piece that has to fit on the arm, it makes sense to make it right on the arm. This piece that I'm going to put on the arm somewhere, let's say between the bicep and the forearm, you know, to control the arm moving in and out, I'm going to make that over here and then just position it where I need it to be positioned. It makes my life a lot easier because everything just gets moved down. If I tried to move this all the way over here and try to line that stuff up, it's going to take me forever. All right, so I need to create some sort of hinge area that this could connect to the robot's arm. So this is a plane. I'm going to take the divisions away. I'm going to shrink it down. Oops. There we go. Something like this. I need a hole in there, so I'm going to go to my subdivisions, maybe 4 and 4. We'll see. I should be able to grab these and use circularize. Yep, that works. And maybe I'll pull this up here. Maybe I'll grab this and that and pull these down, scale them in. Notice I didn't use a cube with this. A lot of people will start off and they think it's going to be 3D, so I need to start off with a cube. You don't. If I can make it off of a plane, because you see all the little tweaking I'm doing to the shape, it's a lot easier to do it on this than it is a cube. And I can just delete that now and then extrude this, and now I'll have an opening. And that opening is way too big. So just take these pieces and scale this down. There we go. That fits. And then more bevels. And this is again one of those areas where maybe I'll use that constraints. Once I have it set up, I activate, I current to next it, boom, it's done. To reset. And then, yeah, that's fine. I'll bevel that again. There we go. And now this piece could get attached to the robot. There's one on each side. Okay, so this would be some sort of plate. Maybe I need a plate for this too. So I'll create a cube for that. Oops. And I may opt at some point, hey, maybe I want to have all these as one piece, like these 3 pieces here. That's a possibility, but I don't think it's necessary. And delete this bottom one because I shouldn't need that. The whole thing could probably be beveled altogether. I don't know why I went to the tool. There we go. And then this whole setup here can also be used on the other side. I'm going to group it. I'm going to center pivot it. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees around. Yes, there we go. And then this end should have something on it. If you look at this one, it's basically just like a loop, and that loop is what would tie onto it. So let me grab this. I'm going to create a torus. There we go. Which is a donut shape. Rotate. 8 again. Take the section radius down. That's good. And I'm just going to line this up, and then I'll move that ring into position. It's very delicate. This guy is going to break, no problem. I think it needs to be thicker. Let's make that a bit thicker. There we go. All right. So now that I have all these pieces, that's all the pieces that I just modeled right there at the bottom. So I'm going to group them all. I can resize the whole thing as a group. I can rotate the group. I can go to my top view, move it over here. Try to find a good spot for it, like where this would be an appropriate spot. Maybe I'll stick it right there. So I'll grab these pieces here. Oops, not that ring. I'm going to group it. And I'm going to move the pivot down, oops, so that it's lined up more with how it would actually rotate. That way when I rotate this, everything kind of stays together. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better than it was. There we go. And then I can just push that on there, or grab this loop and just do that. Now if you have pieces sticking in like this, that's going to look weird, but if you just have a clean cut, it won't look weird. That might sound odd, but it's just how it works. So if I just move everything, let's say out like this, and I just push that in like that, that's going to feel a little bit cleaner than if we were to go and try to half-ass it. That works. All right, so then same thing for this side. So this one here, I'm just going to grab all the pieces. I'm going to group them. I'm going to top view it, move the pivot, center pivot it first. Move the pivot so that it's lined up. Rotate it. Looks like it's lined up with that. And then I'll just move this into there. Okay, and I'll do the same thing. Let me grab this, stick that into that. And now it's just a matter of just realigning everything else. So this goes into here. I'll move the pivot for this down here so I can just kind of rotate it. Oops. And this pivot should be on this side. Okay, now it's obviously way too short. You're so close, aren't you? Yes, you are. Okay, so let's grab one of these and just move it in. That one works. There we go. So now let's look at the ambient occlusion for this. And it's crazy blown out because I have other stuff in the scene. Let's hide our area light, hide our sky dome. There we go. So you can see all that detail that's in there. It just looks neat having the detail. Let's take the exposure down to like 0.25 or so. Okay, just more detail, more detail. And like I said, you may find that you do something like this and you're like, ugh, I don't like how thin that is. Well, if I grab this and just scale it, I should be able to change the thickness of it. There we go. And then because I changed that thickness, well then now I have to go back to this item and then scale this one up. Maybe I'll scale this up like this. Nope, I think 0.5 was probably good and I just need to scale this up like that and then maybe 0.75. There we go. And so now it's a bit thicker, which obviously just is going to create a different kind of look for it. Yep. That needs to be on 3. All these probably need to be on 3. This is what happens to a cylinder when you hit 3 on it. Because it has that cap, it just rounds off. So I don't need the cap because it's hidden, so I'll just delete that one. And then you'll see the amount of detail that goes into something like this. Here's some plates. These are soft. I haven't beveled them yet. Here's some hemispheres, so I just cut spheres in half just to give me some kind of rivets. Here's some wires and a little wire holder on the inside. Come on, where are you at? Hold on, where'd you go? It's on this side. There you are. So I modeled one of these and then I duplicated it and combined them and merged. Duplicate, combine, and merge. Duplicate, combine, and merge for all of those pieces. I could have just left them all as separate pieces if I wanted to. I also have some wires. Where's my other wires at? Oh, I have these bolts here. So here are some cubes that I just kind of distorted to make it look like they're bolts or screws, and there's some bolts. I think the wires are under something. Yep, there they are. So they're under this piece, which is going to be glass or something. I want to render, I don't want to hide. There we go. So I made these like little like wire holders for them. Again, it's just little bits of detail that are going to help sell your design. And then here is where they feed into. If I can click on that piece, there it is. Let me just isolate it. So again, I made this just random cylinder and combined everything together. So for something like that, let's say I take a cap, which is the equivalent of like a cylinder head. I go to the caps, I change this to 1 division, 8 sides. Let me isolate it. There we go. So if I delete that, and then I duplicate it and scoot it over. I like to be really precise when I do this, so I'm going to put the pivot for this right on that edge. Then I duplicate, hold V, snap it to that edge. Then I can use Shift D, and it'll duplicate all of them. And then I can go to Mesh, say Combine, yes. Go to Edit Mesh, say Merge. Now they're all the same shape. So now I can grab that and extrude it, and now they're all together. Then I can grab all of these pieces on the bottom. I'll grab this one, I'll shift click this one, or shift double click. I'll extrude this down, and then flatten it out. And then bevels all around, and then that piece is done. Okay? Now it looks easy because obviously I know what I'm doing because I've been doing this for, like I said before, a long time. But it's just the same process. It's just a matter of jumping in and just trying. Like, this is a cube or a plane. So I made the plane that fit there. I shaped it and I extruded it. These pieces are the same thing. These pieces are the same thing. They're just pieces that I've grabbed and extruded. I did screw up on the fingers. I don't know what I was thinking. But I created these really detailed fingers. You'll see there's like these ribs that are here. There's little wires that go from one side to the other. But they're way too long. It's like his fingers are as long as his forearm, which seems kind of weird. I made one finger as long as like one part of the finger as long as I wanted the actual full finger to be. I should have like halved that or a thirded that. So I'm probably going to have to remodel this entire finger. But you'll see it's just like little bits of detail like that, like this thing. They don't do anything, they're just there for fun. Start off with a basic shape, start extruding, start grabbing faces, and keep going with that. I also did a little camera fly-through, and whoops, that's kind of neat. Because I wanted to see what it looks like. What does my camera look like, or what does my scene look like when it's kind of rendered out? So I put HDR in the scene, I put a light in the scene, and then I just rendered a camera flying through it. It turned out horrible, but that's fine. As I go through and I'm practicing stuff, and I'm trying to work out what the shapes are going to be and where I need to add more detail, lots of times, like this was right before bed. So I'm like, right before bed, I'm going to set this up, maybe spend an hour doing it, get it going, and then when I wake up in the morning, I can see what it looks like. So especially at your maturity level in the software, don't be afraid to just like set it up to render out like a turntable, set it up to render out just like a camera moving by it. The more times you do that, the more you'll kind of see like, oh, I need to add more detail here or there. And why is Nuke not opening? Let's try that again. If Nuke doesn't open, there it goes. Now we're cooking. I'll do this all the time, and you'll see, well, you won't see because you can't go on my hard drive, but I'll show you. There's Maya, there's projects. Inside my images folder, there's just like random stuff rendered out. Because I'll just make something. I'll just throw something together, and then like, I don't no purpose for this, but just I'm going to render it out and see what happens, see what it looks like. All right, you're just taking too long, Nuke. You should have been up by now. Master layer. Why would you do that? taking forever. But that's what the fingers look like as they're rendering out. It's just a flat material that I put on there, and then it has an HDR. And then the nuke part, I had some depth of field there too, just so I can gauge how that's lined up. And I can see how the reflections are moving. That's another thing I kind of look at. I can see some of the shadows. Maybe some of the surfaces aren't reading as detailed as I would like them to. Like under here, maybe I need something else there. Now this is before any texturing with this. These are going to be more photorealistic, so there's not going to be like a whole lot of like grungy type stuff to it. It's going to be more like clean metals. But that's the idea. We want to see these areas where we maybe need to add more, could add more some stuff. If one of those edges, that's another thing I noticed, these edges here aren't holding up very good to the render. They're too soft, so I need to give them a little bit more thickness or a little bit more crispness or something to make them read a bit better. So I recommend as often as you can, render your stuff out. Even if you're not going to use it for anything, that's fine. I would set up a camera, new camera. I'll go to the beginning, I'll set a key, I'll go up to, let's say 120 or so. Set another key, and then there we go. Just a quick camera. Maybe I want to jump in and see certain things, like how they're going to look when they render. So I'll even go like, let's say to 35. This is not something I would put in my portfolio, but this is something that I would have as my testing. So I'll set a key there, I'll go up to this. Set a key here. Okay, this is a horrible camera move. But what it gives me is the ability to see what my objects look like at different angles. And I can see, okay, right here, I see there's a huge hole. I think that I hid something, but if I didn't hide something, then I definitely need to put something there. It shouldn't look like, yeah, I did, because there's a piece missing. It shouldn't look like there's emptiness inside my scene. It should look like if this is a robot arm, it should be packed with electronics. Like that's what, if you look at any of the robots' arms, robot hydraulics, robot mech arm, you'll just see they're like loaded up with gear and wires and cables and all this stuff. As much junk as you can throw inside there, just throw it inside. If anything, it creates confusion as to what we're actually looking at, and we're just kind of focused on those major things. The Transformers are a good example of that because they're so detailed because of how they're built that they have like a load of detail here. You can't even see what's going on in any of these pieces. All you see is the major color pieces. That's what we're looking at. We see these slices of yellow here, the slices of red and blue, then the rest of it is just metal junk. There could be like intersections all over the place. It doesn't matter. We're just seeing like a majority of those color differences. Right? You can especially see it there. Cool. All right. So that's all I have for you today.